Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning. Good morning, Miss Sherry. I love those glasses. I need to just come see your collection because I don't know where she pulling all these out from, but we got to see them. So let's see who we got here. So everybody turn on your beautiful camera so we see those beautiful faces. So we have Miss Joyce, Mr. Bill Howard. I love that color on you. Very, very nice. Miss Belinda Batiste, Mr. Freddie Sherman, Miss Pat Robinson in the car. We got Miss Catherine Williams, Miss Sensational, as always, with her fabulous glasses. We got Miss Akiko all the way from Japan, and she did an amazing job yesterday, even despite technical difficulties. We got Miss Caroline Baker. That is a beautiful lipstick color on you, my dear. And we have Mr. Dale Ransom with that blue. That's a very nice blue. I know you can hear me. And Mr. Ishmael. And we have Miss Marie Belena with that beautiful big smile that we don't see enough, but it's there now. And Mr. Casey Carter, good morning. Mr. Dave Clover, good morning. Who else we got? Miss Eileen, good morning. Mr. Lewis Pan, good morning. Miss Magali Castro, good morning. See, as I start reading names, everybody just starts popping up here. So everybody knows the contest is still going on, and today is Wednesday, so we will be having a call, Mr. Clemens and I, on our number. We can put up a flyer at the end, but I want to go ahead and get started today because I do not want to take any time away from the speaker that we have today. We know who he is. We love him. And before this year, most of us probably had no clue who he was. And they say it's the silent ones you have to watch out for. So he's one of them. Now, let me tell you about this gentleman. He was actually on track in his 20s to beat Bill Gates to his first million. He was a systems engineer. So he did a lot. He's very, 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 very smart. He runs multiple businesses now. He has the most beautiful family. He's been married for 30 plus years, and he has one of the biggest hearts that I've ever seen. Not physically seen, but just, felt, experienced. And no wonder him and Mr. Thomas get along so well. He is the ultimate definition of patience and wisdom. And you all know exactly who I'm talking about. And when I first met this gentleman, I had no idea that he would play such a big mentorship role in my life, even from afar. I had no clue what I was getting into when Mr. Thomas introduced us. But please, everyone, help me welcome, just like you would like to be welcomed, Mr. Dwight Williams from Houston, Texas. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good, good. I am excited to be here. Missing Mr. Thomas this morning, but I know what he's got to do. He's doing what he's got to do. That's the fun part of life, and being able to take the time and spend time with your family whenever you decide to. It's an amazing thing. I was talking to my wife just the other day, and we were just looking back and thinking, for over 30 years, we've not missed any of our kids' events, anything that was going on in their lives. We could do, and go wherever we wanted, whenever we wanted, however we wanted. And I have to admit that is a tremendous, tremendous blessing. And I am really thankful for it. Interesting. Just a real quick note on I want to say about Miss Natasha Ismail. I just want to say how thankful for that invitation. I didn't know she knew that much about whoever that guy was she was talking about. So but I want to say thank you. I've met her many times, her and her husband, and the first time I met them, I knew they were going to be a power couple. And I mean, flipping gas stations and building a business over here, and that's just two of their income streams. So to be so young, the first thing I told them is, I trade you about 20, 30 of those years, and you could have everything I got, even the clothes on my back, if I get those 20, 30 years off. Difference in age. But they won't trade, because you live, like I say all the time, you live in the best time this planet has ever seen. One of the things that she had mentioned on her call on Monday, she talked about gratitude. And gratitude is the currency of success. I don't know if you know, just like money is the currency in an economy, food is the currency to fixing our hunger problem. Well, success has a currency and it's gratitude. That's why most of our wealth, most people who are successful are very grateful, because gratefulness is the key. You learn as you progress in life, definitely successfully. You learn that you look back and realize that there was a whole lot of your success that had to do with other people and other things, which leads us to our conversation today. We're still talking about faith. Faith is my favorite subject, as you probably know. But today I'm going to focus on a couple of different F's of family and friends, and I'm really with the focus on relationships. Uh, um, uh, Often, and this is a learning experience for me in my career. When you're chasing your career and you're building, and 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 you're moving pretty fast, you're moving really fast, and often I did a disc assessment uh, a few years back, several years back actually, and I came out to be a type D, which is a dominant. Which and even with that disc assessment, I tried to kind of adjust, tone down my kind of the answers. You can kind of figure out what's going on with the assessment, and you can try to adjust your answers. To And even still, the lady that did the assessment, she made a statement. She says, "Wow, you probably got a lot of dead bodies that you left behind." And they say that because you're when you're dominant, you're really aggressive, and and I was. I could tell you stories early in my career. I've told you one of my first management stories, beating up one of my employees, he and I getting into a fight. And that was leadership 101. Matter of fact, that was leadership 001. the I wasn't I was young. I was 19, 20 years old. I had been thrust into this position. I didn't know what I was. I didn't know leadership was about example and not telling people what to do. I my version of leadership was what I was used to. My dad said, "Hey, Dwight, go clean the house," and I don't clean it, and then he does what he does, and next thing you know, I'm cleaning it. That was what I understood leadership to be. And so I was so you led by an iron fist, and relationships were, they existed for me to achieve my goals. As Mrs. Mel said earlier, I was on track to hit a million in a year, and that was my goal. And I got distracted. I got something pull me off that track. I began working with people, and I became very, very attracted to helping other people succeed. um, and building the relationships. And so now, even to this day, I've got friends that I've had for 30, 35, 40 years, people that have been in my life who trust me. Um, um, and if I say do this or if I say do that, they trust that I won't lead them in a direction that's for me. I will lead them in a direction that's for them. And so relationships, um, I began to understand that relationships were the key. They're the key to everything. Um, uh, Jesus Christ, God Himself, and I'm not preaching, I promise you. I just told you guys, I've always told you that the book I make all my decisions on is that book. And there's a reason I use that book. And as I said before, there's a difference between good information, uh, facts which change, and truths. Truths are information that never changes. They're timeless, and the Bible is a book that has timeless truths. And because of that, I use that to make my decisions. And so and that has helped me avoid a lot of the. Now, it's not always easy to follow and to do the things that are in it, but if you can find the wherewithal to follow that book, um, I, I'm proof that the path you will take will be have a lot less challenges along it. Um, so relationships is one of those. One of the things that one of the things that changed me is when I had that disc assessment, I began to look back and I began to talk to my family. I began to ask my wife and my kids, even my kids, and I began to look around, and there was a lot of debris. It wasn't that I was aggressively trying to hurt anybody, but I was really driven to achieve my goals, and my goals reigned supreme. It was all about me. And so I talk to individuals today about selfish, and people have a problem with that word selfish because they think it's almost like a four-letter word. And it's not. All it means is that everything, most of the things that you do are to your advantage versus somebody else's advantage. And that's kind of what the word meant. And so whenever I say selfish me or anybody else, I'm not really criticizing you or trying to knock you. I'm just simply saying that my son and I have this conversation all the time, and he hates that word. And I say to him the same thing. I don't mean it in a negative way, son. All the word means is that when you get home or wake up in the morning, everything you do from that time to when you close your eyes at night is for you or somebody else. And the difference between he and I is everything I do is for him, his sister, and his mother, and the people that I love in my family, with me being last, not me being first. And I tell his mother all the time, he's going to raise our grandkids. So I'm going to make sure he knows what selflessness is all about. And that's really the two words that I get to when I begin to talk about relationships and faith. Now, so let's dig in a little bit, real quick on faith. Another insight on faith is, think of faith this way. Faith is the ability to live in a time or place that doesn't yet exist. Just like vision is the ability to see things that have not yet appeared. So imagine sight is in time, is in this moment, allows me to see where I'm at right now. What vision gives me the ability to do is see beyond sight. It allows me to look into the future at not who I am or where I am. It allows me to see who I will be. Now, once I have those two things, I can choose to stay and live where I am, or I can choose to begin to live where I see I will be. But faith is the thing that gives me the ability to do that. And so that's why the Bible then says that now faith is. So you can say, well, now is where I am, or now for me is where I will be. And if now for me is where I will be, then I begin to act like that now versus the now that I'm in time. So so as you take that and we apply that to us in relationships, we begin to realize every person that we connect with has purpose. Everything that happens in creation happens for a reason. There is no randomness. And for me, my favorite book says that everything that happens to me happens for my good. It has a reason. It has a purpose for happening for me. So every person I connect with, every person I contact, every person that somehow we connect, I take it very seriously. There's a reason for those connections and why they're happening. And so often we handle these relationships very loosely. Even people dating, and I'm not going to even get into that conversation right there. That's a whole different, because I got a son and a daughter. But even with that concept, you begin to think about, how do I date a person? Because if in dating, I'm using faith, then I'm looking down the road and saying, what will we become? So now I will say, well, um, I'm just living, I'm living in the now. So I'm not thinking about the future. I'm just gonna satisfy uh, myself or ourselves in the now and independent of what the future holds. Well, that's where vision comes in. And a person that's thinking in a person that's thinking with vision is always saying, this relationship that I'm in with this person has a purpose, it has a reason. So how I handle this relationship now will have a direct effect on where we will end up in the future. And so we have to always be thinking about, even in business. So I'm the boss today. They may be the boss tomorrow, but most of us lack the ability to have that kind of vision. We're like, look, man, I'm the boss. Do what I say, and we'll abuse and we'll take advantage and we'll leverage our position against other people. Whereas in relationships and now I get to the basis in leadership is about sacrifice. It is about selflessness. Um, why? Because if I am selfless, then I invest the greatest part of me in the future, in the possibility of a future in that relationship. Meaning, if I'll ask you a question, I'm going to ask you a question, and I may have brought up a similar question in the past. I know this is an AC, and and we're all leaders on this call. And I know all of you have people on your team, or you are on a team. Let me ask you a question. What do you do if one of your team members that um, joined your team calls you in trouble and needs your help? What do you do? Feel free to answer. I mean, and there's no right or wrong answer, so I don't want you to have to worry about or be thinking about that. What do you do? Yeah. Somebody said help. Uh, what are the chats? Let me see.
Everybody can type it in the chat.
So when you say help, and I understand that, and that's good. The challenge that you face is this is a business, and the challenge is mixing personal stuff up with business stuff, isn't it? Isn't that a challenge? And I hear that all the time. I do. And I get that, and it makes a lot of sense. And next week I'm gonna talk to you about Western philosophies and Greek philosophies on business, and why we find ourselves in the place that we are and how this all started. And it's because we'll often say things that have become facts and we treat them as if they're truths. But the greatest team that I know is a successful family. That basic building block to society is the foundation of everything. And believe you me, it is both business and personal. It has to be both. But without that block in place, all of society falls apart. So then somebody then tries to convince and tells me that no, you have to separate business and personal. And I agree, there has to be, you have to have the ability to delineate the two, but they coexist. You just don't allow them to mingle, but they have to coexist. I have to be able to run a budget for my family while at the same time sacrificing and loving my wife. But the two of those things combined create an incredible unit called a family. So a team, what makes superstar teams better than good teams? They call it everything from chemistry to synergy to, well, what is that? What is that mystical, what is that element that's involved in this team that causes one team to transcend the norm? What is that chemistry? What is that synergy that makes all the difference? And it is relationships. It's relationships. It's that person knowing that that person I can count on in thick and thin. And what does that mean? That translates into, I got to make these next 5 calls. I'm not going to bed until I get one more person. Why? Because I'm doing it for them, because they would do it for me. That, and so I would have conversations with my family, particularly my son. I have a son and a daughter. My son, because he's going to become the man of a family one day, and his responsibility in that family will be somewhat different, not better, higher, lower, or any of that, just different. And he has to understand that when the pedal hits the metal, the pressure is going to be on him. And I don't care what he thinks or says, that's what I expect from him, because that's what I've done in front of him for him to see. And so I say that with a team, not a family, but similar to a family, that if you're going to create chemistry and synergy in that team, in that cohesion of people working together, it's going to require selflessness and sacrifice. It's the only way to achieve it. There is no other way that I know of to achieve that. And so that's where I want us to now start to connect all the pieces. My favorite book says they're bringing one of his followers before what do they call it, a straw man court, and he's going to be martyred. And they say, who is this guy? They say he's one of them. He's one of they that have turned the world upside down. Team of 12 men, the Bible says, turn the world upside down. And this is what teams are able to do, where there's an extreme amount of cohesion among them, where they rely on each other. They have made calls together in pits together. They've all been on call parties, and they're all there making calls. They're passing the phones around between each other, edifying each other, and helping each other try to and because I'm about to switch sides, so I want to be careful of the word I use here. They're edifying each other to try and help the person on the other end see beyond the clouds that he can't see. And so I'm being real careful, because I'm going to talk about some of this on next week, because the individual that you're talking to, you're making the same decision with them that you already have made with each other. You're serving each other and sacrificing with each other. But that person on the other end has never seen that. And they won't believe it. Why? Because they don't believe it exists. They don't believe people do this for each other, or they don't believe that kind of connection can really exist. That's why very few teams rise to this level. That's why when you look at the NBA and you see a Golden State that plays so well together, and then you all of a sudden you see this team that's playing, it's got all this synergy, and then all of a sudden trades begin to happen and arguments begin to happen, and then all of a sudden they fall off. Why? Synergy is gone. That chemistry is gone. Why? Because it only exists when players play for each other. It does not exist when a player plays for himself. I ask young people this all the time. If you were an owner, a coach owner, and you had the opportunity to have a team, and you could have a team of, base guys with one superstar that could get you 50, 60, 70 points, or you could have a team of about 5 guys that could get you 20 points a game, which one would you take? Why the 5? The 5, it's an easy question. Why? Well, first of all, your 50, 60 point guy gets injured, you're done. That's your first issue. But it's it's easy to beat a one-man team, near impossible to beat a 5-man team. So a team of 5 average guys who know how to play together is almost impossible to beat. But a guy that's a superstar that knows how to play by himself really well is probably the easiest one to beat. So the key in every situation to achieving anything is your team. The first team that you got to become. There's a word that I grew up with in church. It's called holy, and man, I used to hear that word, and it would make me shake and shiver. And so so I had to come to grips with understanding what that word really means is that everything about you is in sync, meaning your spirit, soul, and body are in alignment. So you don't say things that you don't do. Your thoughts are in alignment with your actions. Your relationships are in alignment with who you say you are. You don't have one life that you live in the open, and another one that you live in the dark. And so what holy simply means is that I am integrated, spirit, soul, and body. So my thoughts are in alignment with my body, which is in alignment with the spirit that I'm connected to. And so those things flow. And so I tell people all the time, lies are a lot of work. Truth is the easiest thing, keeps things really simple. So alignment so all holiness is me being who I say I am. And so I encourage people all the time as units. First of all, the first thing that has to be whole is you. You have to be in total alignment. So I see people who are not don't really know who they are, that are going to lead and build teams, and they find it tough to where, why am I struggling to do this? Because you're struggling to do you. How are you going to lead 1,000 people and you can't say that I'm going to do this right here and get it done? I said this a while, probably a week before last. Oh no, I said it last week. One of my first tests for a mentee is for them to say what they're going to do, and for me to see them do it. It doesn't matter how big the goal, and if it's some monumental goal, I know that in most cases they won't get it done. But it's a process of learning that I can't eat the elephant in one bite, but I can't eat them in small nibbles. And so first thing we learn is that everybody says, we're about to take over the world. I'm about to become SVP in a day. I'm about to become, as if becoming it. When I hear people say, I'm about to become SVP in 30 days, you can obviously do it. It can be done because it's been done. But the key is, can you become an SVP in 30 days? Because if you're not one here in yourself, you will not become one just because you work to become one. We are who we are because of who we are. And who we are is what we believe. And our beliefs are on the information we have and the thoughts they produce. And so you would say, then why am I not an SVP? Because you haven't become one. Why are most lottery winners not rich? Because they never became rich. They just got money. Getting money is not what makes you rich. The journey to gaining that money is what makes you rich, not the money itself. The same here is true. Becoming an SVP is the journey toward that. It's not the pin. It's who you became in that journey. It's who you became with the rejection. It's who you became with the challenges. It's who you became with the fall offs. Those things are necessary. Those things are necessary. I ask young people all the time, if you became an SVP in 10 days because your dad and mom had enough money to buy everything you needed to do, okay, and you were able to get the pen, you bought the pen, you get on the stage, what do you say? Because you understand, it's that message to the rest of the group. That's the critical, that's one of the most important things about what you've done. Yes, the pen is important for your team. I'm not knocking the pen, but it's the journey that's important to the company. So when you begin to give your speech, that's what encourages everybody that's coming behind you. And so if you get on the stage and say, hey, I want y'all to know my parents were rich, we had plenty of money, and I was able to buy the position in 10 days. Anybody can do it. It's absolutely untrue. It'd be one of the worst speeches ever given. It is when I say I struggled. I was turned down. I was rejected so many times. My RD leg fell off 4 times and I had to rebuild it, but I did rebuild it. I didn't quit. I believe my leaders kept telling me, and I thank ACN's founders for building this opportunity. I have gratitude and graciousness for the success that this has afforded me. It is those statements, that is the currency that helps the rest of that room believe that they can do it and continues to propel this business forward. Relationships, family, friends, but more so than anything, your team. Your team is the key to your success. This right here is more important than most things I do. I'm a trader, I own businesses, and people love to talk about those things. But the things I love to talk about is the people that I watch blossom and become successes. I'm sitting here with a privilege and an honor to watch and talk and speak to people who will become greater, I hope, and I believe, than I ever will be. I promise you that. And my whole goal is to make you believe it's true. So whenever I get on this call, I'm trying to convince you of something that's already true that you don't yet believe. That's the faith as expressions. See, I tell people all the time, they say, why do you do this? Because I've already seen it. What do you mean by that? And I wish I've thought about it and they would do it, but I wish I could gather up many of the people whose lives my wife and I have invested in and just let them sit, and every one of them will tell you, he saw in me what I didn't even know was there. And that's what we do as leaders. As leaders, we sacrifice. Why? So they see what it takes to become that. So they see it in you. They have to see you take the no's so they don't have an excuse to quit when they get one. They have to see you deal with rejection so they can't use rejection as an excuse when so if you buy it and they can't buy it, you will not build a team. Why? Because you haven't done anything that anybody else can do. But when I build it and I face all the challenges and I climb all of the obstacles and I do everything it takes to build this, that's what makes it worth it. It's worth it because it it removes excuses from everybody else. And it just, what we call it, social proof that it can be done. But it's only going to be done if we believe in each other. I'm about to wrap up. Matter of fact, I'm already over time. I thought I was under time. I want to say to you, and in answer to the question that I asked earlier, It is a tough question. And it's happened to me in this business. I had a person call me 4 o'clock in the morning, in trouble, needed help. Well, I told them I was going to help change their lives with the 500 when they put the $499 in the business. And so it was a Hail Mary for them, but I got to call the only person that I know that may be able to help me, who may have said that he was going to be there for me when I needed him. Now, am I responsible for their personal situations? The question, it's a different question. I'll ask a different question in response. How great a leader do I really want to be? Because the greatest leader is the greatest servant. Nothing will ever change that. That will never change. I know the king thinks he's the greatest, but according to my book, he's not. The greatest in the kingdom is the greatest servant. And with that, I will, and oh, next week, we're going to talk about finance, and that will be my last subject with the, and I avoided kind of touching on it this week. So that will be, I'll talk about money in the business and all of that. But I wanted to really deal with, before I started talking about that piece, I wanted to deal with the team side of everything. If you're going to be a leader, you're going to sacrifice for your team. You are. Because think about it, any of you who've seen an RVP and SVP promotion, who's lined up behind that person on the floor is their team. Often those teams are massive. Why? And the most successful ones are the ones where, you know what I would love to see? I would love to go to a VP promotion, and instead of the VP speaking, his team speaks. That would be killer for me, because that's what I want to hear, because they're going to tell his story better than he ever could. And with that, I turn it back over to Miss Ismail.
Wow. So we're going to put in a note to Mr. GP to make that happen, okay? Because that's an amazing idea. So just like Mr. Thomas was speechless yesterday, I'm speechless today. And Mr. Williams, I just thank Mr. Thomas so much for the privilege to even introduce you. And I don't want to start crying, but so
thank you.
a couple of the notes. So he said gratitude is the currency to success. I hope everybody wrote that down. Now, Mr. Williams, you said something that I want you to please repeat for everyone. Faith is the ability to live in a time that's not here yet, and sight versus vision one more time, please.
Yeah. All right. Just like vision and sight. Sight is you see in the moment. Vision is you see what has not appeared yet. The same is true with faith. Faith is your ability to live in a time that does not yet exist.
Woo! I hope everybody wrote that down. He is preaching. That was amazing. And then something else he said, if 12 men turn the world upside down, what can the 60 plus of us do in the next 43 days before 2020 is over? There's more than 60 of us. That's like 4 or 5 times what they had. 12, and we're a team, we're a family. The amount of work that Mr. Thomas does for us, the amount of sacrifices, the amount of knowledge and wisdom and everything that he just pours his guts out to us for, how are we going to thank him? And he's not here yet, so I can say this. How are we going to thank him and show him that we really appreciate everything that he does in the next 43 days? And guess what? In the end, it all benefits you and your family. So just imagine what we can do. But Mr. Williams, I just want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And there's a couple of shout outs. We have Regional Vice President, Ms. Jocelyn Driscoll on the call. We have Regional Director, Mr. Julian Lewis, Mr. Brian Baker, Ms. Evelyn Phipps, Mr. and Mrs. Rose Guerrero King. And today's call, I need everybody to show him your appreciation. Just Go crazy with the claps. You could put emojis in the chat. You could throw hearts up. Just give him all. Miss Saunders, I see your hands. I just see hands on the screen. I love it. So thank you so much, Mr. Williams. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Any words in closing before we put up the flyer for tonight's event?
No, just want to say thank you to everybody. Appreciate it. And I look forward to next week. Have your notepads ready for next week. We're going to have a lot of fun. And Mr. Lewis, you're trying to steal the material, man. He's over there talking about trust. Well, that's one of the things we're going to talk about next week. So this is really, and I want to say one last thing, Ms. Ismail, you brought up a really great point. I just talked about relationships and sacrifice. Guys, I'm gonna tell you, I've known and met a lot of men. Mr. Thomas is a phenomenal gentleman, and I've worked at every level of corporates. And matter of fact, most of my clients were C-suites of really big companies. And Mr. Thomas is a top-notch guy. You ought to go hard for him before this year is out and really do something special. Because he's been doing this since the pandemic consistently, and this is phenomenal information. You pay thousands upon thousands of dollars for this info. So I'm telling you, go hard, guys. Do what you have not done before because it's in you to do it. So I promise you, you can get it done. And I want to say thank you again. I appreciate this time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. So speaking about taking material, I heard some of my material from Monday in there too. That it's about the journey, not about being at the top of the mountain. But anyway, we won't talk about that. But that's what happens when people are just in sync. So I don't know if everybody's noticed how everybody's messages are intertwined. And that's because we're all going to the same place and we all are in sync. And I love it. So it's okay. You took my story, Mr. Williams. It's okay. But thank you so much, everyone, for being on today. Mr. Clemens, if we can go ahead and please throw up the flyer really, really quick for tonight's event. And then do not miss tomorrow morning's call. You do not want to miss tomorrow morning's call. I can't even tell you about it. That's how special it is. Do we have the flyer, Mr. Clemens? Just let me know. Got to play some Jeopardy music in the background here. So again, one more time. During that time, Mr. Ransom's laughing. All right, awesome. So there are the flyers for this week, but he will go ahead, post it shortly. But every single person on this call, please, one more time, can we just show Mr. Williams some love one more time? Just give him a round of applause because it was just amazing, just amazing.